Dobar dan ponovo iz Niša. Javljamo se sa foruma naprednih tehnologija gde smo podcast partner. Naša današnja gošća je veoma zanimljiva osoba. Dolazi nam iz Finske i predstavnica je jednog od najvećih startup kampusa u Finskoj, ja rekao bih i u nordijskim zemljama. Anni, welcome to Niš.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to host you on the podcast Zalet, Inovacija.
Thank you so much.
You just finished your keynote speech at the end of the first day of the forum. What are your impressions from Niš? Impressions of the forum, of the panels, the topics, people, the atmosphere?
I think, well, first of all, I like Niš. I've only been here for today, but the weather, first of all, is nice. Coming from Finland, we only had 15 degrees when I left. So, of course, I'm nice to see some sunshine. But I've actually been really impressed with the event because I think, like, you can really sense a sense of optimism here. Like, people are very excited of what's happening here. And I think there's a lot of, like, willingness and want to do things bigger and like to really get this kind of tech scene thriving. So I think there's a very optimistic, let's say, vibe. And I think everybody's been very welcoming, very, very friendly. It's
Great impressions.
Very great impressions, yes.
You come from Finland as a representative of the leading startup campus of the Nordic countries. Tell me more about Maria 01. What does Maria 01 represent?
So we represent the whole startup ecosystem in Helsinki. We have a physical campus. We're located in an old hospital that was actually Helsinki's first ever hospital, built in the late 1800s, and in 2014 it moved to a new location because it was not fit for a modern hospital anymore. And the city was left with this problem that what are they going to do with this space? Because it's a huge complex of 6 buildings, 20,000 square meters, terrible condition, but then at the same time, because it's historically significant, you cannot bulldoze the buildings and build something new, so the buildings had to be there. And at that time, the startup ecosystem was really booming in Finland and in Helsinki particularly, and everybody in the ecosystem, the investors, the startups, corporations, they wanted to have a place where people could actually physically come together, bring all aspects of the Finnish startup ecosystem under one roof. So that's kind of where the idea started from. We offer physical locations, so offices, co-working, meeting rooms, event spaces, restaurant and things like this. But actually what we are doing is we're providing a community and a home for that community. And we support the startups and all aspects of the ecosystem to find each other and co-create and innovate.
How does Maria 01 support startups in the early stages of development? What are you focused on when working with startups?
Well, first of all, we are a selection-based campus, so which means that the startups actually have to apply to be a part of us. And we have the selection criteria that the startups need to have a scalable business model, and they already have to have some sort of MVP. So they're not the idea stage startups, but once they have a product and they realize that they need support on their scaling phase, that's when they come to Maria. So we are there to help them grow. And we offer them different types of activities. We would maybe say that we're like a facilitator and a platform. Once the startups are approved to be a tenant at Maria 01, they get a desk membership or they get an office. And then they have 3 years to stay as tenants, and they can use all of the tools that we provide them, which is access to capital. We have around 30 domestic and international VCs in our network. So they get introductions to our VC network. We host around 370 events during the year. They get to come to all of our events for free. And of course, we partner up with larger corporations. They get a lot of their services free of charge through us, or they get discounts from their products. And I think the main way that we help them is to give them access to the relevant community. And of course, foster this peer-to-peer learning that when the founders are all in one space, they go to the same gym in the campus, they go to the same running club, they eat in the same restaurant, they go to our community sauna.
Or sauna.
We do have a community sauna, yes. So they
Friday
also
sauna.
We actually have free shifts on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay,
but,
my bad.
Yeah. So we want to kind of allow them to have this very casual way of meeting each other. So,
Yes.
you might be making coffee in the kitchen, and then you start speaking to the other person there, and then you realize, like, oh, we're both struggling with this and this. Like, maybe we should sit down and have lunch and, work together on this problem.
Yes. I found some information about Maria 01 that I need to read so I don't make a mistake. Current and former campus members have collectively raised over €1 billion in funding. This represents around 40% of all early stage funding raised annually by Finnish startups. How did Maria 01 grow into one of the focal points of the Nordic innovation ecosystem? What's the formula for success?
Hard to give a formula, but we were formed very organically, meaning that the founders and the VCs who were in the ecosystem found a need to have a place like this. And so they partnered together to create this place. And when you have the credibility and the buy-in from the founders themselves, it's very easy for other people to want to be a part of something like this. So I think the formula for us was that it was very much bottom-up approach, meaning that it's not like the government saying that we need more startups, there's a campus, try to get people there, but it was rather the founders who were saying, like, we want to have a place, and then they would go to the city of Helsinki to ask, can we have this space and can you support us with this initiative? So I think that is very important. And for us, especially getting the VCs into our mission was very crucial, because if you go to any startup founder and say that the top 3 VC funds in Finland have their office here and you will be able to see them every single day there, and you can just knock on their door and talk to them, I mean, it's a very big selling point. So I think for us also that the investors were thinking that they have to work together with the startups and not have this kind of two-level people in a way.
Yes. Finland has as many as 12 unicorn businesses, firms worth $1 billion or more. That looks very impressive. What, in your opinion, contributes to Finland becoming one of the most dynamic startup in Europe, one of the centers with the greatest market potential?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I want to now highlight that we have a 13th unicorn, because our member Linear yesterday got unicorn status. So they raised a Series C round, and they're now valued at 1.25 billion. So this was very recent, so no worries if you didn't know about them yet. But we're very proud because it's a very first Maria 01 born unicorn company. So we're very proud of that. But I think what makes Finland, especially Helsinki, kind of or the ecosystem thrive, I think first of all in Finland, like, we're very tech-minded people. We're very engineer-minded people. We've always been early adapters of new technology. We have this like mindset that, technology will save the world and people want to be a part of that. We also have very high level of education. If you think about the percentage of people in the population who have a higher education, but also, of course, the level of educations in universities is very, very big. And I think one thing that really highlights our ecosystem and makes it thrive is that we don't really within the ecosystem have this competition mentality when it comes to each other. So we have this giving back to the community kind of mindset. So those founders who have really made it big, they made money, they always want to contribute back into the ecosystem and support the newer founders. So I think the startups see that they're not competing each other, they're competing other corporations throughout the world, and there's safety in numbers. The larger the Finnish ecosystem is, it supports all companies going abroad and growing globally. Rather, if they start competing with each other on the ground level, like none of them will ever be able to like grow outside of the country. So I think this kind of idea of working together, I think really contributes to that as well.
Yes. There's a lot of talk about connecting and building community. From local to global. How important are a strong community and quality infrastructure for the development of a national startup ecosystem? What's your experience from Finland?
I think community is everything. I mean, we are a campus, but the city is full of empty office space, so people don't come to Maria to have an office in an old surgical room. They come there because of the community. And I think, as I said, that we would rather all work together and raise everybody up rather than, use our elbows and like push other people down. So I think it's super important. And obviously we are a very small nation, so it's very easy to be connected. But I think it supports that we have good connections to different government entities, different politicians, different universities, student-led entrepreneurial societies, accelerators, and that we all feed into each other. So I think it is very important.
Yes. What lessons from the Finnish ecosystem would you recommend to other countries that want to build strong and globally connected innovation ecosystems?
Yeah. I would say one key thing is to find key people that others will follow. Yes. So as I said, that ours was grown very organically, and we managed to get these VCs and top founders who believed in our mission involved, because those people were the ones to attract everybody else. So I would say just focus who are those founders or VCs or ecosystem partners that people really look up to. So it sounds horrible, but who can you name drop, Like, oh, we have this person here, we have this person here, because then, people will, of course, follow.
Yes. According to the 2024 report conducted by your organization, the conclusion and results from the market are that startups with international founders from different countries and international experience secure higher investments. Why is this important for investors?
Well, according to all researches everywhere, diverse teams always outperform non-diverse teams. So it just brings a mix of different perspectives, different educations, different know-how. So it just strengthens the team. And most investors will invest in the team and not the idea. Because if you have an amazing idea, but a poor team, they will never be able to make that idea happen. If you have a mediocre idea, but an amazing team, they will be able to pivot that idea and make it great. So I think having diversity, it just performs better. But of course, when you look at people who generally go abroad and start a company, I think they already have this mindset of, they're not very risk aversive. They're probably more entrepreneurially minded because they've put themselves in this kind of situation where, everything is new and they have no network and they have to work hard and they don't take things for granted. And I think that's also something that really drives them to push their companies.
Yes.
Because us Finns might sometimes get very comfortable in what we already have and why would I push more when, I have a comfortable life. Yes, exactly. So I think a lot of the people who tend to leave their home country to do something, they already have that mindset of like making it work.
Yes. In a world where competition is increasing, what do you consider to be the key to differentiation your product or service? Where do startups make the most mistakes in this domain?
Well, if I had an answer to that, I would probably have a very high
Yes.
functioning
General.
startup. But in general, I think it is one of the most difficult parts for the startups to find the product market fit, to actually know where to go with the company. But I would say probably they should focus more on just getting the product out there. I think in Finland, like I said, we're very engineer-minded, and a lot of people have backgrounds in universities and research, and they would want to be in the lab all their life and like make it the most perfect product. But I think the most important thing would to be to actually just get the product out on the market faster. So then with your customers, you can actually learn what they like, what they don't like, what is relevant, what isn't relevant, and together with the customer, iterate your product.
Yes.
and create something that they actually want, because oftentimes you try and think something perfect in your own closed space, and then you launch it, and then you realize that nobody cares. Nobody
Yes.
needs this product.
Yes. Interesting. To end the conversation, what would you like to say to the Serbian startup ecosystem, to young generation, to young founder in Serbia? Something about inspiration, motivation, or consultation, honestly, from the heart.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a very positive vibe, so I think like keep that positive mindset. That's very important. Keep a global mindset would be the next one, because you're also quite a small home market, such as we are in Finland. So I think like not be limited by geography, but actually think of a product that you can scale globally already from the very beginning. And try to find those local heroes, like those people who have made it big or are working with something very special, and try to get them involved in the ecosystem, because then it will kind of feed into other people starting to want to do that as well. And then, of course, a very concrete example, I would suggest for people to come to Finland in November to Slush.
Great.
It is the largest VC startup meetup in the entire world. So if you are a startup who's looking for funding, that would be the best way to meet investors from Silicon Valley and all over the world. It's a very nice event in general.
It's a great. It's great. Annie, thank you very much for your time and this conversation. I hope to see you again at a similar event.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dragi gledalci, ovo je bila Anni Anttonen iz Finske. Vidimo se u narednim epizodama iz Niša, gde smo podcast partner Foruma naprednih tehnologija. Pratimo se nadalje i vidimo se.